Welcome to No Password Required. I'm your host, Jack Clabby, the cybersecurity attorney at Carlton Fields, PA. And with me, as always,
I am Kayley Melton, the Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Cognitive Security Institute and the Bob Ross of InfoSec.
We just finished a great conversation with Mariana Padilla, who's the co-founder and CEO of HACKERverse.ai. Kayley, what stood out to you the most?
Oh my gosh, it was such a good conversation. I'm having a really hard time picking something. I'll take a serious route. I really appreciated her discussion on how in the vendor space in this industry, there's a lot of lack of trust. And I appreciate what she's done with Hackerverse to try to increase that trust again.
Yeah, we'll also go into some detail on a distinction that's really important here to us at No Password Required, which is let's not confuse passive-aggressive with traditional aggressive-aggressive.
That's right. Or specifically Jersey aggressive.
That's the third level of available aggression. All right, well, you've heard a little bit about what we took away from the discussion. Let's hear what Mariana has to say.
Welcome to No Password Required, a podcast dedicated to showcasing the top personalities in the world of cybersecurity.
Well, welcome. Our guest today is Mariana Padilla. Mariana, welcome to No Password Required.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here today. Truly a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Mariana, I want to start with sort of a big thought here. I understand that you don't believe in failure. Can you explain what that is, and have you always felt that way?
No, this is a learned, acquired thing. So, and I would get a little bit of clarification that it's not that I don't believe in failure. It's only a failure if you didn't learn from the experience, right? So, something happens, it's a flop, you learn from it, you grow, you progress. I would qualify that as not a failure, because it was an opportunity and you learned something and it, hopefully became either a better person or better your craft or whatever it was. So I would say failure happens only if you don't learn from it. That being said, I used to spend a lot of time dwelling about things that, if something didn't go right and beating myself up and the whole 9 yards. And, it's just been an evolution of personal growth to get to where I am now.
That's like, the idea of harvesting failures or rushing to failure, right? The idea is, look, just go and do things. And the more things you do, you're going to have a better percentage chance of being successful. And if something's not going to work out, let's get it done and over with, learn a lesson and move on. How do you convince others, people on your team or folks you're collaborating with about this, right? Isn't that like that drive to not fail can arrest so many people? How do you work that into your work relationships?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's a little bit easier when you're working on a startup, right? Move fast, break things, fail fast, that whole 9 yards. We can have a whole discussion about, the validity of some of the things and the startup ethos, right? But I will say that it's just inherent in the nature of startups. Like, you have to be fast, you have to be scrappy. If you spend too long sitting in a place where you're just dwelling on things that went wrong, it's very hard to progress further and move ahead and keep the business going. So I would say that it's kind of in the inherent nature of people who work in startups to kind of have that mentality. That being said, I mean, I think it's leading by example, right? So there are definitely leaders that will, jump down their team's throat if something goes wrong. This was a failure. We screwed up, all of this kind of stuff. How dare you? Like, shame, right? That's never, ever, ever going to be me, right? It's like, okay, well, let's do a debrief. What did we learn from this experience and how can we take it forward? So I would say it's all about leadership and leading by example would be my answer to that.
Yeah, that idea of not burying the failures too. Like, if you show, look, you're the leader. If you fail, then you talk about it with folks. It becomes a more comfortable thing for them to talk to you about if they have the same thing happen. This is part of our job.
Right. And I think a part of it is just being transparent about that, right? So I think, the old guard, whatever you want to consider that to be, would hide that, would sweep it under the rug. We had a failure, like, we're gonna cook the books to make sure no one knows that we had a failure, like, God forbid you be human, right? Anyway, but and I think that's just an old model and mentality for doing things, and don't want anything to do with it, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and that's a great point too. You mentioned a minute ago about startups does some pre-screening of folks who are interested in working at a startup are going to already be folks maybe who are aligned with that. And then when they get to a place where the leader is talking openly about, we tried this, it didn't work, let's keep moving, that does create a great environment. Contrast that to some, of the larger cybersecurity players in our industry that have been around for a while, or service firms that have cybersecurity shops where they've been open for 100+ years. That is a very different place to have that experience, for sure.
Right. No, absolutely.
Mariana, I know you've described yourself as a bad employee, which is kind of a funny concept. How do you take that niche skill set of being a bad employee and turn it into like a leadership quality?
Yeah, so I that was one of the things I was laughing at when I reviewed the notes this morning. I was like, oh yeah, I said that. And it's true. I mean, so I would say that it probably depends on the organization, right? So I spent a lot of time working in very old-fashioned organizations. I would say large nonprofits who've been around for 125 years is one example of said organization. And, I've truly served their purpose. There's lots of organizations that do, but it's going to be built into the culture, whether or not you are ready to accept change and move on things quickly. And when you are someone like me who is a constant state of like diagnosing process improvement in every aspect of my life, whether it be the Target checkout line or Taco Park, like it's just, I can't help it. I'm like, oh, if you just move this over here, that would make the line move faster, right? So and I can't help it. It's just like how my brain works. I'm constantly doing that. And, that's not always welcome at a lot of these organizations. And thankfully, I've stumbled into an industry where if you are doing things the way they've always been done, you're lost, right? You already lost, right? Threat actors are evolving constantly at a rapid pace. With AI, we can talk about quantum. That's a whole other thing, but things are moving rapidly. And if you're doing things the way you did them, even 5 days ago, even 5 hours ago, like you lost. You just cannot have them in that mentality. So honestly, it's the perfect industry for me to be in. But that's what I mean when I'm a bad employee. And also I am like a very straight shooter. My biggest pet peeve is people who are passive aggressive. I just can't. So I'll tell you, I will diagnose the problem and I will tell you. And often that's not well received.
I love that passive aggressive comment because it's so sometimes that's like being accused of being passive aggressive makes me so like I have a reaction to it. Like, whoa. I was being aggressive. I wasn't being passive aggressive. I was being candid and direct and honest. You're just upset that I was being aggressive, for which I can apologize and rework it. Like I'm not saying I was right, but I wasn't being passive at all. I told you exactly what happened.
You're from Jersey. I don't think that passive aggressive is part of you. That's not
geography that's known for being passive aggressive. I lived in Seattle for a long time. That is a geography known for being passive aggressive. I could never live there again, to be completely honest with you. And I hate rain, so it was not the place for me.
Should we maybe put our jackets on the coat hanger instead of, all these statements start with should we? No. I would be like, grab your stuff, put it on the coat hanger. That's
right, exactly.
That's old school aggressive.
Yeah. And we also learned a fun fact about me, which is that I hate the rain. So there we go. Another little tidbit.
There are enough people that like it in this great world of ours that there are plenty of people. You know what? It's okay. We know places we can live where there's no rain, places we can live where there's lots of rain. Everyone can tell.
Environments for all of us.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
So I would like to hear a little bit about beginner's mindset and how you've said that was an asset in your leadership at HACKERverse.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great question. And something I did a little bit of, deep dive into human-centered design in the past, and I think it's very valuable to really understand that and approach that and use that in my work. But yeah, so I had no exposure to cybersecurity before I joined HACKERverse 2.5 years ago. At this point, I met my co-founder. He told me about his vision for building essentially a try before you buy platform for technical software. And I got it immediately because I had had a lot of challenges onboarding my marketing clients onto CRM platforms and all this stuff. And it took so freaking long and was so painful. And the salespeople sucked. And it was just like the full thing. And so...
What's aggressive? That's aggressive. That's not right.
Aggressive.
All right.
That's right. And so I didn't have that, exposure to cybersecurity. And so I think it has been really great to just come in and just absorb all of it like a sponge and be able to look around and question why we do a lot of the things we do in this industry, specifically around marketing and communications. For how critical of an industry it is, we do a terrible job of explaining what it is we do and why it is important across all layers, between teams, between cybersecurity and the rest of an organization, between cybersecurity teams and the board, between CISOs and board members. And I think that's changing, and we are recognizing the need to be able to communicate better. But I think that's the biggest thing. And so when you're in the weeds so long in a space, sometimes you just get used to it. This is the way we do things. Okay, right. But I think it takes a total outsider coming out of left field sometimes to just roll it and be like, why are we doing this, y'all? Like, can we radically need to do things differently? And so that's what I would say about that. And so sometimes, if you're looking for change or you're looking to solve a problem, just even chatting with someone who has no experience with it can be super helpful, so they can just surface you questions that you would never even think of. This is just an example, not necessarily related to the industry specifically, but when I'm looking to get a pitch and it's more of a generalist audience, I ask myself if it passes the PAT test. My mom is Pat, and so she didn't understand. But no, probably no one will. Right? So I'm like, okay, let's break this down. How can I explain this in just like a very basic human level that will help someone emotionally connect? And this is not directly related to what you asked me in terms of beginner's mindset, but I think it is relatable just in terms of like bringing in an outsider to talk about these things and surface these questions and diagnose problems. I think is very helpful.
Mara, just for our listeners who may not be familiar with HACKERverse.ai, can you just kind of give us an explanation of the use case and kind of what services you provide?
Yeah, I think it's helpful to start with how we got here. So my co-founder has 25 plus years in sales engineering experience, leading sales engineering teams, and spent a lot of time building demo environments, building sandboxes, cyber all that kind of stuff. And so during that process, discovered that not all products performing as advertised. Real shocker. I know, earth-shattering news. But so, the vision is to really be able to surface the best solutions through try before you buy, like I mentioned. So we build these, we use AI and automation to quickly build product proof of concepts. We are able to mimic customer environments. And then you can come in and say, all right, I want to try these solutions. Up on the roadmap, we're building multi-tool evaluation to test interoperability, but essentially on-demand cyber rages that really speed up the evaluation process and then help vendors along the way too. But there you go.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you've got to get to a vendor agreement too for that interoperability problem. Sounds pretty cool, but also complicated to arrange from a business perspective.
It is complicated. There's a lot of licensing, really fun stuff. But I think, vendors who have really good products and really long sales cycles are like, look, we need to do things differently. We got to try different things, right? We know we have good stuff. We've built a solid product. How can we shorten the sales cycle? And a lot of times it's just, letting people get their hands on it. I was asked, my good friend Bronwyn ran a podcast. She doesn't do it anymore. She's like, you complain about marketing a lot. Like, what's the solution? I was like, just show the people how the freaking thing works. Being aggressive. Going back to it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I want to see the thing. Let me see the thing you want me to buy.
Don't tell me about it.
Yeah. Exactly, right? Okay, you can take a car for a test drive. Why the heck can't we test drive something that's supposed to protect billions of dollars? What's the deal then? What's the deal there? Right? So there you go.
Yeah. And I know in our industry as well, vaporware is definitely a thing.
Oh,
So
100%. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's kind of a meme how ridiculous vendors can get sometimes with their promises and all of that. So
Right.
it just makes real practical sense.
Yeah, we did hundreds of hours of customer discovery on both sides of the equation with CISOs and vendors to really diagnose the pain points. And even the term smoke and mirrors, like I kept writing it down. Like it just kept coming up in like conversation after conversation after conversation, right? Or, we bought this thing. We lost our internal champion. It was really confusing. The thing we bought it for wasn't available yet, even though they promised it was. So it lives in the closet. So and vaporware for sure, but I have a mental image of just this closet stuff with crap that doesn't work, right? Like that junk drawer.
If we come at this, I'm an attorney who works on cybersecurity matters, but we come at this from that perspective. And so there is a focus, a state regulator focus on vendor risk management, particularly on who your cyber vendors are, right? And this concept, you mentioned the word interoperability is, I think, going to be a growth area over the next 2 years, which is fine. You brought these 3 things online. Did you check how they work with each other? And do they leave a gap between where these two work? And do they communicate with each other well enough that that the signals being sent by one are being captured by the other? That's a real, I would be an excellent offering for a company that's concerned about regulatory inquiries, particularly if you're using multi-tool solutions.
Right. Well, and then the other thing is, because the sales process is just so long and painful, there's obviously regulatory checklists and stuff that need to be, done and all this kind of stuff. But sometimes you just buy things because you're like, okay, I think we have a gap here. And, it causes alert fatigue. Sometimes having too much crap in your stack leads to security risks in and of itself is what I would say to that. So if we're talking about, like you just mentioned, like regulatory stuff, like it can actually be a security risk, right? If you have too much stuff and it's not well evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the boy who cried wolf kind of a thing. Is the worry there that you're getting too many alerts, and so you don't know which one is the important one? That's a little bit.
Right. Well, that's one example. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yeah. So it's clear from your aggressiveness. Just kidding.
Aggressive.
Yes. That you've been vocal about shaking things up in cybersecurity, and we might have just discussed the answer to this, but I'm curious, in your opinion, what's the biggest status quo in this industry that needs to be shaken up right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we just discussed the sales process, the kind of dragging of the feet to just, show product viability and show all this kind of stuff. I think a lot of it actually, if we were to just even take a step back from there, really ties back to the investment process and like really aggressive, goals around revenue, which we should have aggressive goal. I understand, like we need to run profitable businesses, but when running a profitable business means you're pushing shit out of the market, pardon my language, that is not ready. What are we doing? We're cutting ourselves off the knees because we're, imploding customer confidence, right? And so like smoke and mirrors, there's a huge lack of trust. And so we really have to rebuild that. Status quo, I would also take it back to communication and the way that we market and communicate about the value proposition of cybersecurity is really something that needs dramatic change. I think it's starting to filter down to the general public. Obviously, there's scams constantly, and people are talking about it more. But we need to do a better job of communicating why this is so important, right? So those would be my 2 things that I would say are status quo that need to be shaken up.
Yeah, that venture capital backed cybersecurity startup risk is such a huge. I mean, we've seen it, particularly in the incident response firms, where you had an incident response firm that had human beings that were really good at what they did. They take on a VC or another private capital backer, and then a year down the road, you call them about something, and suddenly they're selling you a software as a service, and you're like, "Wait, you guys were always human-centric incident response. Now, within a year, you've been transformed into some kind of software as a service. Like, where did you get this software?" who are the people who wrote this? What is it different than any other? It's this idea that any company can become a service overnight just because they got money to try to sell themselves that way.
Right. I call it the race to infinite growth, which I have a lot of problems with. And I think a lot of it starts with investors who are willing to do things differently, right? Let's go for sustainably built businesses that treat people the right way. I think that, like we focus so much on like MQLs and SQLs and all of this stuff, right? And how we measure businesses, forgetting that that's a person, not just a number, and that people remember how you treated them and how you made them feel, right? So like if I were to say one thing that needs to be improved, it's like that's a huge part of it. Like you were saying, the human-centric component, like treat me like a human. Don't just try to shove something, down my throat because you think I'm a target for something. I lost the train of thought there. I lost the thread, but I went on a tangent. What was the original question?
No. I think you've got it back. But the idea of like suddenly when a company gets venture money, right? And not always, right? Obviously, there's a lot of responsible growth, community-centric growth, but sometimes when a company gets money, a year later, it's very different than what it was, not in a positive way. Right.
Yeah,
right.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's going to require investors approaching things differently. And honestly, I don't have the statistics to back this up, but I would bet that if you invested in companies that built sustainably for the long term, you would get a better return on your investment. They take longer, but they're not going to go bust as fast. So I don't understand the unwillingness to do that, other than this is the way it's always been, and maybe I need to move it to VC next.
No, but that down. But I think that's. But I think maybe it's different right now. But for the last 5 years, there was a lot of VC money where I think they were just having investment committee meetings where they said, "We need a cyber company," because that's the hot thing. And then they just went and bought a cyber company with no thesis, looked at the cyber company and said, "There's nothing scalable here. Let's just bootstrap on a scalability." Maybe you're going to see that now, Mariana, with AI, right? Which is just VCs or private equity sitting on very different things, but the same idea of we're sitting on capital, we want to deploy it. Our investors want an AI company. Let's just find a random one and put money into it. You wonder if AI is going to be the next, probably already is, right?
Oh yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting aggressive again. Went to TechCrunch Disrupt last year and could not believe the amount of BS that was A, funded and B, on display. I was like, who is investing in a company that generates AI pets for children? What is the model there? Why did that get investment? Like, it just made me so bad.
Your AI pet model, I get it, but also could you share with me the name of the company and the URLs for research purposes? No, I'm kidding. I was like, no, I know it.
It caused so much mental disturbance that I really blocked it.
It's a terrible AI company you're talking about. Could I spend 5 hours on it tonight if I were? Right. But it is, it's like all going to be pets.com eventually, right? Like there's so many things that are going to sound good, but then 5 years from now, we're going to be like, what were we doing?
Right.
We didn't need AI. Yeah.
It's my assessment of Disrupt. It's just a bunch of nonsense.
It's like the joke about, like the Internet of Things, and everyone always said, why do I need a Wi-Fi connection to my refrigerator? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing there? Like, there are some things that we're going to look back and say, do we need AI at the point of sale at a basketball game? No, just hand the cash over, hand me my hot dog, right? We don't need.
Right. Hot dog or no hot dog? I had to. Silicon Valley still to this day is so accurate. And Mike Judge just had speaking of Internet of Things and the refrigerator gets hacked and saves the company because all the data gets moved to the IoT, the refrigerators, right? But it is so on point. And I'm just like, he could bring it back for the AI age and just kill, right?
Oh, totally. I would love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about LinkedIn job searches. Because you mentioned LinkedIn. There's a lot of people who think that's going to get them jobs, but I know you've had conversations with researchers about that concept. What do you tell people who are saying, I spent a year looking for a job on LinkedIn and I haven't gotten anything? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, I would say it even goes beyond LinkedIn. But first, first thing to know is very top of mind. I think in a lot of ways you're competing against AI for some of these jobs. Fake candidates, deep fake interviews, all that kind of stuff. So it is more important than ever that you network and build trust. Cybersecurity, more than any other industry, you have to have that human connection. You have to build trust. You break that trust, you burn bridges. It's a small community. People talk, they'll know. That's not related to the question, but I think networking is so important. And we are a highly technical people. Sometimes being a highly technical person and being having great social skills may or may not go hand in hand. And so when I do talks at conferences, I've done several conferences on networking. People are like, "Oh, I'm just an introvert. I don't want to do this. I blah blah blah." Okay, well that's fine, but you're essentially hamstringing your future success or ability to switch jobs, right? You just can't come in cold. And it's the same mentality when you are fundraising. I mean, to swing at VCs, I am fundraising. It's just the nature of the game. But what matters more than anything is those warm introductions. So you have to have that network to even get an inch into the door. And it's the same for your job hunting. I did like a mentorship call with someone a couple of months ago. I'm applying on Indeed. I'm applying on LinkedIn. I'm applying. Well, A, do you even know that's a real job? It may not even be a real job. They may have something up there to make it look like they're growing, and they're never, ever, ever going to hire for it. B, we talked about the AI influx, and we actually have an event coming up in a couple of weeks with Validia, who does deepfake detection on video calls, and recruiters are a huge portion of their business because they're getting so many fake candidates coming in the door. So the online application system has been dying for quite some time. I think AI is going to be the death knell, and we're going to have to figure out some other way to do this. I don't have that solution. I don't want to be a person that solves that problem, but
it was depressing though, because there was a period where the idea, at least from an inclusion standpoint, it was cool, right? Because the idea was online-based job searches. We're going to help stop this is my cousin, get him a job, right? This idea that it was just going to self-perpetuate at large companies, the hiring of family and friends, and there was never going to bring in new ideas like, oh, wow, we can now recruit from everywhere. We can do it digitally at low cost and with meetings over video conference. And now, because of the risk of AI and job spamming and all this stuff, we're right back to where we were in the 80s. We're only hiring people who know other people. And again, we're back to that bias of folks just within our network. And so for job hunters, that's exactly right. Like, the network is important. It's really important. I almost wish it weren't, but it is.
It's hard. And I see both sides of that. And I would say, if lots of in-person networking is not your thing, then build your online portfolio, right? Like, people know me for my LinkedIn, and which is funny because I post so much random crap, and I didn't think anyone would but I think it's like the human nature of the stuff that I'm posting that brings people along, and it's like, okay, I'm a human. Look at all the weird things that I do, right? And so I think, YouTube, have a YouTube, Twitch, like whatever. There's lots of content creators out there who may or may not really enjoy the networking piece of things, but show off your skills. Like, give people another way to know you. If it's not networking, then you have to have something. And this is an age where we are our own brand, whether or not you like it. That's the reality. Your personal brand matters, and you have to have one. It goes a long way to that trust that I mentioned, and it will open a lot of doors. Okay, go to my YouTube, check out my skills. Cool, awesome. Let's have an interview. So you can't just linger online. Unfortunately, you can't be someone who just lingers and watch everyone else create the content.
All right, well, I think let's take a short break now, and when we return, we'll have our lifestyle polygraph. So stay with us.
You're listening to the No Password Required podcast. We cover cybersecurity, and a lot of other stuff.
Welcome back. As many of you know, the Lifestyle Polygraph is a test used by the federal government to determine if a person is worthy of learning some of our nation's most important secrets. Here, though, we use this technique for only slightly lower stakes to determine whether our guest can join our fantasy cybersecurity squad. Mariana, are you ready for the Lifestyle Polygraph?
Let's freaking go. Let's do
Yeah, all right. All right. Question 1. As a kid, you loved your Viewmaster. If you could build the ultimate 4-image reel for maximum happiness today, what would be on it?
Ooh, one would definitely be space.
Whoa.
Like a lot of founders and somehow all of us tech geeks like love outer space. There's like there's a thread there, for sure. I'm totally fascinated by it. I love sci-fi, like space operas are absolutely my favorite. I would say space for sure. Oh, I loved the geography ones, like, and I think that sparked a lot of my curiosity and desire to just like not settle in my tiny little backwoods hometown and like get out and do different things. Geography, though, oh, I don't know. What would I pick on that? Just all around the world. Pets for sure. Number 3 would be pets. I had 3 labs. Unfortunately, we're down 1. We lost a member of the pack this week. So I would say pets, pet picks for sure. What would the 4th one be? Maybe underwater, deep sea diving. That's kind of like space. There's a lot of stuff down there that we just don't know about, right? And we can hear creatures.
Yeah, very creepy stuff down there.
There was a show that, God, 25 years ago called, I think it was, what was it called? It was like an outer space show, but it was set underwater in a future where everyone lived underwater.
Interesting.
I'll think of the name of it. Maybe one of our listeners can tag it to this, but it was like Star Trek, but underwater. Sequest. It was called Sequest. Does that make sense? Okay.
I've never seen it, but I have heard the name.
It's one of those things that I probably remember it being better than it actually was. And after I were to go back, I like that connection between the outer space and the underwater, because it really is people pushing boundaries and frontiers like startup folks are and founders, right, Mariana? That's what we got there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like James Cameron, right? He makes movies where you could go exploring, as opposed to
the Mariana Trench. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Then Joe's right. Yeah, absolutely. The trench and the islands named after me. There's a whole podcast on James Cameron. It's not How I Built This, but it's another like builders podcast. He is a wildly interesting dude. So yeah, just very, very, very intense. Speaking of aggressively aggressive, Jersey aggressive. He is beyond Jersey aggressive.
He goes full Jersey. He's willing to go full Jersey.
He goes full Jersey. There we go. We got it in.
All right. Question number 2. We all have that one oddly specific shopping obsession. Yours happens to be RSA fashion. Can you walk us through a couple of your legendary conference fits, both past and planned?
Yes. Oh, dang it. I had something that I just purchased and I was on my desk and I put it in my closet. I should have had it next to me. Okay. Is there video to go along with this? I may need to go retrieve this at some point. Okay. All right. Next break, I'll go show you. Okay. RSA fashion. Yes. I think conferences are a prime opportunity to peacock a little bit and show off some fashion. There's a cybersecurity guy, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he goes around and takes pictures and he calls it RSA Fashion Week, and he's one of my favorites. He has the best like suits and blade. They're so on point and like well tailored. It's incredible. Okay. But last year I had spiked shoulder pads on my blazer. The spiked shoulder pads will be returning. I guess technically the word is epaulettes, like apple. Yeah. Anyway.
I've never read it. I've never pronounced it, so I don't know how that word is pronounced.
Yes, I don't know if that's correct or not. I've never actually heard anyone say the word out loud, to be honest. Will there be pink go-go boots at RSAT 25? Maybe.
I like it.
What?
Don't trim it. Don't commit.
Will there be white Burning Man style boots at our site 2025? Yes.
Awesome.
Also some other fun blazers. Here's another word I don't know how to pronounce correctly. Tulle, Tulle, tulle.
Full.
Yeah, tulle. The stuff that like the. I don't even know how to describe it.
Like a bit,
just
like a tutu, like
Like a
that.
ballerina's,
Made of,
yeah.
Yes. That will be present and on display for RSA 2025. So there's some examples, and then at some point I'm going to have to go grab the boots and put them on display for everyone.
Do you acquire these things? Do you make them? What's your strategy for you it?
Yeah. So the internet knows me. It's like, here's some weird things you might like. I'm like, yes, I love these weird things. It's like goth. It's like these are these Victorian era goth boots that you might like. I'm like, yes, I do. I do love those. I wish I knew how to sew. In another universe, I would have done fashion design. I absolutely love it. I would have learned how to sew. I can picture things in my mind and like create them, but don't have the actual skill set to be able to execute on set things. Maybe sometime later in life. Who knows?
But Mariana, I'm with you about, like, we hear complaints about cross-contextual advertising online about, are they tracing me? Do they know where I've been? And I'm totally okay with it, because I want them to push ads to me that suggest to me fun things that I like to purchase. What I don't like is if, I go to buy something like that I have to buy, like windshield wiper blades. Well, suddenly they think that I'm in the market for windshield wiper blades, and that's just not. But things like cool shoes or cool sunglasses or blazers with spikes off them, I'm all in, and I want that to track me throughout my internet experience. I'm okay with that. Just give me the choice. Let me opt in or opt out, but I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. So there you go.
But, all right.
Great answer. All right. Number 3. If resumes for both Batman and Superman landed on your desk at Hackerverse, who would you hire and why?
Oh, Batman, for sure. He's nice and dark and twisty, which I love. I can't, okay, this is why I'm going to go on a rant. I just can't stand Superman. For me, he's like the poster child of like propaganda. He's like this blonde American, super guy. I just can't with him. And like, Batman has real feelings and real demons that he's wrestling with, and I'm sure would execute well on whatever task that I gave him when he wasn't out, running around at night.
Or he's training and he learned things, right? Batman, he learned all that stuff. He didn't just show up with the ability to deflect bullets. He had to make the suit of armor himself, and he had to solve mysteries. Batman's a critical thinker. He's the greatest detective, the world's greatest detective.
Absolutely. I don't know if you got into the show The Boys, which is like very weird. There's lots of weird moments in that one, but Homelander, that's what I think of when I think of Superman. It's Homelander.
Same.
People are like, we love the Homelander, and the actor who plays it, like, don't you recognize that he's supposed to be like the worst human?
Right.
That's the whole thing. It's like when satire goes over folks' head. It's like it's so depressing that it's like even the Punisher. Like the Punisher was a satire too, and now it's being used for. The opposite of what it was sort of intended to lampoon. So, supports.
Yeah, totally agree on all points. All right, number 4. Is Batman a builder or a burner, and which of his best descriptors fits you? Vigilante, guardian, or strategist?
Ooh, is he a builder or a burner? Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
It probably depends on the situation. And if we're talking about Batman prior to his like love interest dying, probably a burner. Batman post love interest dying, definitely a burner. Or builder before, burner afterwards. Sorry, I think I messed that up. Vigilante, strategist. What was the other one?
Guardian.
Oh, that's tough. I feel like there's a negative connotation to vigilante. Like you're just like going off the rails. Like, there's no strategy often. So I guess I'll go with strategist. Yeah, I guess I'll go with strategist. maybe ask me in a bad day and I'll say vigilante.
Yeah.
There's like the dark depiction of him where he is like the product of his background and he's vigilante. But then like the most evolved version of him, like in the comic books, is he founds the Justice League. He organizes everybody. He's not a superhuman. So he's got that strategy of, look, let's get all these folks working together and give them a common enemy. It's which is really strategic, and he kind of keeps them all from fighting each other.
Yes.
That's free. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Perfect. You just backed it up. Strategist.
It's a great, that's the best version of him, like the Star Trek version of him.
Yeah.
Right. Is that the Star Wars version of him is like the vigilante, but like the Star Trek is the, we're all going to work together and the pod keeps growing and whatnot.
Have you guys asked people like Star Trek versus Star Wars? Which one do you land on? Is that an audience question?
That's a common one. Can we turn that into a 4A?
Yeah.
Where do you fall? Yeah.
Oh, trekking for sure. Star Wars.
Oh, really cool.
Is fine. It's fine. Star Wars is fine. But then they just kept extending it out and it got really terrible. And Star Trek. And I have very fond memories of watching Star Trek with my dad as a kid. We'd watch X-Files and Star Trek together. So it's a thing.
Yeah. Star Trek, we have folks come out who give impassioned defenses of Star Wars, and that's okay because there are arguments for Star Wars. I get it, but the correct answer is Star Trek. It's post scarcity. Everyone gets along, right? I mean, it's the model for what a good tolerant future was supposed to be, where we're all working together to explore, as opposed to war and chaos and blood, right? Which Star Wars kind of sells.
Right. Definitely.
Yep. All right, number 5. Final question. Hollywood is remaking the Dolly Parton classic 9 to 5, and this time it's based on your career journey. First off, congrats on the giant check. And now the bigger question, who is playing you in the lead role?
Who is playing me in the lead role? I think I don't remember seeing this on the list, so I'm going to need, it probably is and I just missed it, so I'm going to need to noodle on this. Who's just like a total baddie that I totally love? I love, not that I would by any means say that I look anything like her, but Margot Robbie, I really like her. I like the Barbie movie. And then when she's, why am I blanking on, Harvey, what's that movie? What am I blanking on? Where she's like has the pigtails of
Harley Quinn?
Harley Quinn.
Oh, is there Birds of Prey or
Yeah. So we'll go with Margot Robbie. I feel like I had a different answer before, but we'll land on that.
No, I could see it. Honestly, I could see it. She's got that like dual purpose, like you said. She can be either or. Yeah.
And she's in the big time producer game now too, right? So she's an executive in addition to being an actress. She's got a lot of cool stuff going. So she would sell it hard too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
All right, Jack, what do you think?
I do. In fact, so we were joking about the Star Trek versus Star Wars having a right answer. And, I think that one's a much closer call, but we were so confident that Batman is the right answer over Superman that we oriented the question so that the next question was Batman.
Fully.
So correct. So Mariana, you had us at Batman. So yes, you're on the Fantasy Cybersecurity Squad. You will lead one of our startup spinoffs, and we'll do it with community-centric, natural growth, not any sort of like extra stuff. But yes, what's the set? No BS, no fluff, no software as a service randomly. So wait, Mariana, if folks want to connect with you or learn more about what you do, how can they do that?
Yeah, so HACKERverse.ai, and then my LinkedIn URL is / here to shake shit up. Very memorable. You'll never forget that. So those are the two places where I show up the most. And then, we also have a podcast that streams, well, I guess technically vodcast that streams to YouTube. So that's also a good place. But that is where I hang out. And yeah, come follow me on LinkedIn for lots of shenanigans.
Well, thank you very much, Mariana. It was great having you on. That brings us to the end of the show. Thanks, everyone, for listening. For the entire No Password Required team, I'm Jack Clabby, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for listening to the No Password Required podcast. Join us next time for more with your favorite cybersecurity personalities. In the meantime, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. You can find us on social media at NoPasswordPod. The show is produced by Cyber Florida, and a special thanks goes out to our friends at Carlton Fields and Reality Shift. For more information, visit our website at cyberflorida.org/pod.